What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. My name's Paul. This is the Leeds Therapy, and this is your midweek catch-up this time around. On the screen, you will see my little QR code thing that I'm still trying to test out, but that's for the YouTube channel. So if you want to get involved with that, please, cheers, Joe. So if you want to get involved with that, please make sure that you scan that. Make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, that your notifications are turned on, that you are commenting, that you are liking, hyping, whatever you want to do. Any comments that you want to put in there, feel free. Just keep them respectful. That's all that I ask. And also as well, we will be on your podcast apps as well. So we are on Apple and Spotify, to name but a couple. So if you are listening to the audio versions, just make sure that you're liking it, keeping everything going up and on the algorithms just so people can see it. So in what will be probably a little bit of a surprise for everybody, this is a bit of a turnaround for the books. We have guest number 2 this time around. Obviously last week it was Big Lou, but this week we are blessed to have the dulcet Irish tones of a Mr. Ger Lynch from the Leeds View. And I think it'll be nice for me to be able to start just by going, how are you doing, mate, for once?
I don't know why it's that much of a shock. We talk nearly every day.
I know.
Multiple times some days. Yeah, thanks for having me on. No, dulcet is not a word that's been used to describe my tones in the past. Slightly dull and husky, but maybe not dulcet.
I'm up for the all 1920s types of descriptions of absolutely everything. I'll be on a tuberculosis and polio and all of that next soon as well.
I'm a big fan of dapper. I like being,
Dapper's good.
Wear suits. I used to wear suits all the time and work 3 pieces when I used to do my repping job. And I love being walking to stores and they'd be like, Jesus, you look very dapper today. I'm like,
same. So the suit maketh the man. What film's that from?
Yes.
What film's that from? Kingsman.
Kingsman.
Yeah, the suit maketh the man.
The suit doesn't wear the man wears the suit.
It does, absolutely. It's how you carry yourself, And me having lost since November 4 stone, 4.2 stone in weight, I am now obviously a very svelte young man.
I've gained 3 and a bit.
So I've passed it on to you. That's fine. Thank you for taking it off of my hands. That's great.
No
when
problem.
I bend over now, I don't make a weird noise anymore, which is really, really good. And that ability of you drop something and because you're slightly portly, you swear at stuff rather than pick it up. That's what happens when you get over 40. It's a bit of a weird one. But I digress. I do digress. Apologies. So for this kind of midweek catch up, we've been trying to get this going for a couple of weeks, but we've just schedules and stuff have just been in and around and everywhere. But there's 2 little topics of discussion that I wanted to talk about. And what I wanted to just from the off as a caveat for everybody that's listening is just so you're all aware, this isn't a, oh, woe is me, Leeds United, we're getting absolutely pooped on, it's barking at the moon, all of that kind of stuff because of all of the bad luck that's going on. That's not what this is about. This is just more of a general discussion in and around, first things first, the standard of the Premier League itself and just how it's kind of played out a little bit. And we're also going to look at the standard of refereeing. And I've just caveated it by going, is VAR to blame? I have titled the video, The Premier League is Corrupt. My tongue is very much in my cheek when I say that. I genuinely, when I say that, but there's games that have happened today where you look at it and kind of go, I'm not sure how I feel about that. But when I talk about the standard of the Premier League, what I'm actually relating to is there's been a lot of discourse amongst pundits, amongst fans, players, all of that kind of stuff, where they've all said a similar sort of thing where the Premier League, the supposed best league in the world, doesn't appear to be as good as what it's led to believe. So things like, how dare a team that's newly promoted shut up shop and try and play their way to getting a draw because the points are important, or the fact that it's changed from being this really, really sort of like faster tippy-tappy, all of that kind of stuff, to this now more kind of, it's gone a bit route one, it's gone a bit long throwing, it's gone a little bit more, the physicality has gone up a couple of notches, and it's not that kind of, spectacle that we're all used to, that we all pay an absolute fortune to watch. And whilst I understand it to understand people's complaints to a certain degree, we've watched certain games and we've been guilty of it ourselves, I suppose, and guilty is a strong word, but where Leeds have gone their way to a draw because no team's really wanted to attack, or it's the defences have just kind of nullified each other. everybody's wanting to kind of do the same thing, and it's first and foremost risk averse. Make sure you don't lose, as opposed to going on and winning. And I just wanted to get your take on that, Ger, and how you feel the Premier League has been so far this season.
It's a really interesting topic. Myself and Alex Simon from American Leeds were talking about this at the weekend as well. And I think it's a worthwhile topic. And to your point, this feels like a Saturday evening down the pub with a pint chat, of, geez, the Premier League's in an awful state, isn't it? And then discuss for the next hour and a half and argue about it. But I think the Premier League has made its own bed. I think it has had warning signs over the last couple of years that have said there are certain things starting to creep into the game. If you don't get a handle on them now, you might have a bigger issue down the road. And I think clubs have been allowed to get away with things. I think you look at the Manchester City situation around the charges. You look at the Chelsea situation where they got a measly £10 million fine for £43 million in illegal payments. Surely the fine should have been at least £43 million,
Yep.
And no transfer embargo at all. Poor Everton got hammered. I think the joke that floated around was Chelsea have been found guilty of breaking transfer laws. Everton have been deducted 10 points as a result. That was the joke that was doing the rounds. But they've allowed this to happen, and they've allowed the punishments to not be that big of a deal. And then when you look at the refereeing, they've allowed certain things to fly, and they've ignored rules over the past couple of years. I keep hanging on the 6-second rule being referred as a ghost rule. No, it's not a ghost rule. It was a rule. You just weren't employing it anymore. And then they had to change that to, it has to be now an 8-second rule because the goalkeepers are taking the piss and they're taking 25 minutes to take a kick out. So now we've got to change it and bring in a lesser stipulation and a longer period of time. And then that has been broken this year already again. So by not enforcing the rules, and I don't blame necessarily the Premier League for this, I blame the officiating for this, because it's the people who have to adopt the rules or the laws of the game that are there and put them into practice on a weekend. And that's their job. So I think over the years, and I go back to go back 15, 20 years, you were talking about, continental players coming into the Premier League, even further back 20 years, and diving was going to be, we can cut this out of the game. We can review things after matches and we can go back and retroactively punish them. That's gone now. Now you just see Turkey rolling around the pitch in the cup final laughing and no one cares about it. So if you don't care about things and if you minimize the impact that some of these things have, then clubs are going to try and get away with it. And I think you've seen this year in the Premier League, them bending the rules, cutting corners. And then the other side to the Premier League's issue is the money is so important. And they have created this massive pool of cash in this division, and the drop into the Championship, and look at the conversation around Spurs. It's unthinkable if an established Premier League club gets relegated, the damage it will do to that club. I mean, you're talking hundreds of millions of pounds, fire sales of players, and we were there 20 years ago. So they've created that environment. So then as a result of that, teams are now thinking, well, do you know what? Winning the league actually isn't that important anymore. Getting into Europe is important, or surviving in the league is important. So now clubs are going to cut whatever corners they can, find any marginal gains along the way to make sure that they're in the division or qualifying for Europe. Forget about the title. Doesn't matter. Arsenal this year booked the trend in terms of, well, they've gone for the title. But I think Liverpool last season beat them to the title this year. I think Manchester City, who whatever's gone on there this year, more often than not will beat them to the title. It's a unique season, but they've taken a slightly different approach to this. They're winning it by set piece in it and playing a fairly dull brand of football. But you can go back to the 90s with Arsenal, and George Graham did the same thing. Boring Arsenal, 1-0 to the Arsenal. And that's all there. So the Premier League has created all of this by either how it's been governed, how it's applied rules, or the monetary value that it's put on staying in this league. So can you really blame clubs who are trying to stay in this division and keep that cash and look for those marginal gains? Can you blame Leeds for getting Ethan Ampadu to absolutely hoover a ball into the penalty area every single chance he gets at it, And I mean, and then we were talking about this before we came on. You look at the statistics. The ball's been in play this year 55 minutes. And this was the year they were clamping down on time wasting. 55 minutes. You go back to last year, it was 57 minutes on average. And the year before that, 58 minutes on average. So they can't say they didn't see this coming. It has been coming. And then you look at the goalkeeper situation around the fake injuries that have happened. Goal kicks this year, on average, take 30.1 seconds. It's the highest it's taken for a kick out in 10 years of football. And if you look at how much has been lost in matches, On average, 7 minutes and 42 seconds are lost each game when on goal kicks alone, and that it's the highest since 2018. So this has been coming in for a while, and they've done nothing about it. And now they're like, "Oh, hang on, we got a problem here. The problem has been creeping in, and you've done nothing about it till now."
My big thing, I mean, just talking about sanctions and how ridiculous the Premier League is, how long it's taken them to sort out the Chelsea situation, and the fact that they got with the irregular payments and or unscrupulous payments, shall we say, and they get a £10 million fine, which to Chelsea is absolutely nothing. Let's be honest, it's absolutely nothing. But then you look at other teams, and I know they're not a Premier League side, but you look at Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah,
they're basically relegated to League One now. They're also going to start next season on minus 15.
We've been there.
And yeah, we've been there as a team, so we know what that actually feels like. But then just to point out, last week we get sanctioned because of starting games slowly. We get sanctioned £500,000 because of kickoff delays not working, of not kicking off the game at exactly the right time. So there's a sanction. The sanction now agreed for further infringements is £100,000 for every 60 to 90 second delay, £130,000 for every 90 to 120 second delay to kick off, and £170,000 for any delay in excess of 120 seconds. Now,
and the league is losing 7.5 minutes per game on kickouts alone. They're doing nothing about it.
Exactly that, and this is the thing where little things don't make sense. We've all talked about Man City's 115 charges and the length of time that's taken to bring itself round again.
And they'll get away with it.
But yeah, I think they will as well. But then you look on it in terms of like throw-ins. We were talking about this just before we came on air. I made a point of counting the amount of time it took for throw-ins to be taken during the Brentford game when I was there. There was a chap, didn't know him, next to me, and for some reason we both just started counting for the amount of time that it was going to take. On average, each throw-in that Brentford had took between 40 to 60 seconds. They had in excess of 10 throw-ins throughout the game. That's 10 minutes gone where the ball's not in play, just purely based off of throw-ins. And it's something that I feel like it's just not getting a handle on. Whilst I can understand from a team that's lower down the table, they're trying their best, or newly promoted sides are trying their best to make sure that they stay in the league. That's the core fundamental of your first season back in the Premier League is survival. So you can get it with those trying to do those sorts of things, but it seems to have crept into practically every single team in the Premier League. So like with Arsenal, you said it yourself, Arsenal are going to win the league this season. I think it's pretty evident that's unless it's an absolute monumental balls, which if it did, would be hilarious, by the way. I know. You and I both have the same disdain for Arteta and his encroachment and all of that kind of stuff.
Stand
No, and so it would be hilarious if that happened that way, but they won't be remembered for the beautiful football that they played, that we know that Arsenal are capable of playing. It's set piece Arsenal. That's what they'll be remembered for. They'll be remembered for basically dragging everybody down and being extremely uber physical.
But do you think their fans will care if they pick up a Premier League title? Do you think the history books will remember that that's how they won the title? Do you think that Arteta will care if he wins the title? Because it's 2008 since they won the last one. The title. They won't care. It's the same with moral compasses as well. When the Saudi investment fund bought Newcastle, it can't be. Geez, they're guilty of tons of human rights violations. Newcastle fans welcomed them with open arms, and you look at it and you go, probably a lot of clubs, a lot of fan bases would, because hang on a second, you're giving us oil state level of money. We can actually compete in this league. And it goes back to that money situation on the Premier League. We can now compete in the top half and get Champions League football.
They're not allowed to spend it. A lot of people.
Well, they can't. They spent enough. They spent enough to get the Champions League for a couple of years, So and they've competed in cup finals as well. So the end justify the means in a lot of fans' eyes.
Yeah, it does. It does, and it's one of those. We know how much people's morals change on things. I mean, you just need to look at Keith Andrews and the. Not going to call him what Jerry called him, because that's Jerry's slogan, not mine. Curly head prick.
was
That's
great.
one of the best things that I've ever heard. It was
Out of
amazing.
nowhere.
Yeah. So for him to sit there when with the whole Bielsa quote unquote saga and say what he said, but then for him to actively tell a keeper to go down during the game and then call over Jordan Henderson and then call over other players because Leeds were on top and because the substitutions had just been made. Where does the spirit of game come into it? Don't talk to me about your morals of the game. Don't talk to me about your this big moral compass that you have when it's an absolute fallacy in all honesty.
And by the way, I'm not saying my moral compass wouldn't change for a huge bag of money. I'm not saying it would, but I'm not saying it wouldn't either. If someone offered you generational wealth to change your opinion on something, I think a lot of people would, at least at the very minimum, would consider. I think it'd be ignorant to say, "Oh no, I definitely stand my ground." Okay, all right. So you're going to scrape by for the rest of your life, or you can have generational wealth right now if you change your mind on that one thing. There you go. I think a lot of people would look at it, and it's not to judge people on doing it, but don't hold yourself to a higher standard and then buckle. Like, don't publicly say things and then buckle when the opportunity comes around. Save yourself. Don't put yourself in that position where you have to then be questioned around your moral compass, because it'll happen at some point.
It will. And speaking about conspiracy theories and everything, we'll get onto that in a second. Actually, do you think that there is anything that the Premier League could do? We're going to get onto the refs, so that's a separate issue. But in terms of the Premier League at the moment, is there anything that they could do to improve or to make things better? If you were to pick a couple of bits and pieces that you think of that to make anything better.
Yeah, I mean the goalkeeper injury, fake injury thing that's being discussed. I mean, again, for me, Dermot Gallagher said the Premier League will trial an outfield player going off from it next season. I feel they've gone the most convoluted route they can possibly take to doing that. And I think it's going to cause another time-wasting issue, because now they're going to use it for time waste.
Who's going off? Who's going off? You got? No, I don't want to go off. You go off. I don't want to go off. You go off. That's
yeah. So now it's going to be from being a tactical timeout to try and adjust the changes being made to being an absolute time-wasting tactic, because I can kill probably 2 minutes doing this. Queeving, down you go, mate. Down you go, mate. Jordan Henderson, get somebody off the pitch. Oh, hang on a second. Let's quick look around here. Where do y'all go? They're all on my back turn. They can't. What? I can't hear you. Me. No, oh no, him. Oh no, me. And so on and so on. And that's the way it's gonna go. And how come the women's game have fixed this immediately by just banning players from going to the touchline? Done.
Because they're progressive.
Just simple solution. When the keeper goes down for treatment, every staff member must be seated in the dugout, or else they get booked, and the players aren't allowed to approach the sideline. Done. Send them all to the far touchline.
The other thing, this is what I agree with it. Everybody has to go to the centre circle. That would be my thing. Both teams, centre circle, done. The other thing that I know this is a bit basketball-y, but the other thing that I would like to see is a countdown timer that comes up.
Yeah.
When a keeper gets the ball and he's got it in his hands and he's getting ready to kick it out, there's a countdown timer that comes up on the screen. 8, 7, 6, so they can enforce the rule correctly. Because
rugby union, it's done in ice hockey, it's done in basketball. It's just these clocks are everywhere. Yeah. Take the timing responsibility away from the referee.
Mm-hmm.
He's got enough to do.
Yeah.
Take it away from him. Put a timer in a boot. Let Stockley Park manage the timer, whatever they need to do. And when the ball is out of play or stopped if it's gone more than 10 seconds before anybody picks up the ball, you start the timer or you stop the clock. You give them a couple of seconds of leeway, because it's not the same as rugby. You give them a couple of seconds leeway and then you stop the clock. End of story. Substitutions, stop the clock. Goal kicks, stop the clock. And then all of a sudden, people start getting done quicker.
If you want to go one step further with that, you could do something like almost a totting up counter that is somewhere that everybody can see. So when a game stops, the counter starts. When it restarts, the game restarts again, the counter stops. It can all be automated.
That's your additional time.
That's what gets added on at the end of a game.
We've got
Tag Cure would sponsor that one in a second. Oh
yeah, and we've got a referee's watch that can tell you if the ball has crossed the line. We've got automated offsides or semi-automated offsides. Tell me we can't get a stop clock to work properly here? Come on.
Of course we can. It's ridiculous. Well, nicely, we have segued into the referees, and it's a really, really touchy subject, I think, for everybody. And again, from the caveat, I don't want it to seem like I'm sitting here going, woe is Leeds United. We've been really, really hard done to. Every single team across the Premier League has said the same thing this season. Every single team has gotten annoyed this season for certain things happening. And then people talk about the conspiracy theories and everything that goes with it as well. I said to you before we came on there, just throwing into it, the teams that have had the least amount of penalties conceded, interestingly, are Arsenal and Manchester City. Make of that what you will. But Dan Moylan made a really interesting comment about referees, is that for some reason now, referees seem to really, really want to be their mates, want to be the mates of the players that are playing. So they're calling them by the first name. They're called this, that, to kind of make that seem a little bit more friendly. And for me, when I was at school or when I was playing Sunday League or when I was playing county football, that's not how referees were. Referees, I know it's a different, but there was a level of respect. Well, it's not. I suppose it's not. I suppose the arena's slightly different, but there was a level of respect that you had to give to the referees. In schoolboy football, you were told the referee came in to both sides and said, "Lads, right, I don't mind it being physical. Don't take the mick with it. Refer to me as sir." Or, don't shout my ball because that's an obstruction. Shout your name just to remind you. I want the game to flow and set out what he wanted at the start of the game. Do refs still do that these days? Is that still kind of how
amateur level? They do, because when I played and when I coached, I mean, I would literally tell my players to shut up when the referee came into the room. We'd stop a team talk in the middle of the referee coming in, because the referee was always part of my team talk, and I won't hide the fact that anyone who watches this stuff who knows me as a player or as a coach will know I was a mouthy on the pitch, and I was the same as a manager. I mean, I know, shock horror. Those who really know me. Yeah, but I mean, yellow cards, I would get booked on a red. My brother went through his whole career with one yellow card. I went through my whole career with a stack of reds and yellows, and the bulk of them were from mouthing off to a referee, are feeling hard done by. So I won't claim to be on their side. So I'm slightly biased on this. But I do think there's a logical approach to all of this kind of stuff. And again, if a referee came into a dressing room and said, if you open your mouth to me, you're getting a yellow card. Done. Okay, well, you've told us now. I know. So if we get booked, that's on us, because he's told us straight out, that's it. You'll go into every sideline in amateur football and we hear someone screaming during the pitch, shut up at somebody else who's talking to the referee. You'll hit a manager telling him to stop talking to the ref, leave him alone, because that causes a bias from the ref as well. If you keep annoying the referee, he's going to stop giving decisions for you. He's going to start giving decisions against you. And it tots up, and players will get bookings quicker. When I played, it was the same. He didn't mind a physical tackle, but if you annoy me, I'm booking you. If you make my day hard, I'm going to book you. And there was a line that I used to use on referees that they absolutely hate. I found the one thing that really annoyed them, and I used it whenever I could. As an amateur player, I'd walk past them going, Jesus, you're the only one getting paid here today. Imagine that. And they hated that. They were getting 40, 50 quid for ref in the game. We were paying a $5 or a $10 to play football. And you take that and bring it to the Premier League. These referees are full-time employees. These guys are athletes. These guys are fitness guys. They're getting massive games around the world. They're in the best league in the world. Although I don't think, looking at the football and standards, you can say that anymore about the Premier League. But the best players are there. So they're there. So the standard should move with that and be relative to the level that you're reffing at. And if you've got two linesmen and a fourth official, God, I would give a referee a hard time about getting an offside wrong in amateur football with no linesman. These guys have a fourth official, linesman, automated system, VAR, second set of eyes. They've got cameras from TV networks that if they retrospectively wanted to go back and clamp down on something, they could. The evidence would be there and they'd have a case. All of that is there. And yet the standard of refereeing is subpar. Yet the standard of refereeing is lesser than it is at an amateur level. Yet the referees some of the stuff that gets said to referees on a professional level is appalling. And it's allowed to go unpunished because, well, that's Rodri who said that, and he's one of the best players in the world, former World Player of the Year. I can't do that. Sorry. Don't reference him by his name, reference him by his number. Straight away. Remove this pally thing from it. Get that gone. If you do approach me, you're getting a yellow card immediately. I saw that referee, I think it was in one of the the Asian or the African games. The Asia Champions League.
Yes.
And he was expecting, I think it was Al Nasir players to come up to him after the game because of the ref. He stood on this halfway line with his red card in his hand waiting. Nobody approached him because the red card was in his hand waiting because he was expecting it. And it was an immediate thing of, if you go near him, you're getting a red card because he has it out. He's ready for you. So there needs to be this harder line that's taken. If you come near me and you're not wearing an armband, you're getting booked immediately. Zero tolerance. I don't care what your opinion is. I've made my decision, and there's no version of this where I changed my mind and reversed it. When in football has a referee ever reversed the decision without VAR telling him he got it wrong? It's never happened.
True.
So,
you look at it as well on the face of it, because I know VAR comes up as the fun sponge for when a goal's been scored, or well, surely that's got to go to VAR because it needs to be looked at, and you find out that instances aren't checked. Or, and again, I have to use the example because it's the one that I know, is the O'Neill rugby tackle on Strike. It was checked and it was deemed fine. There was no
obvious error.
There was no clear and obvious error. And then 2 weeks later, we get told by the panel that look for clear and obvious errors after the fact. Well, actually, yeah, you should have had a penalty for that. And it's that people don't have the trust in what this system is supposed to do or what it's supposed to bring to the table.
There's no punishment, Paul.
No, well, no, there isn't, and none for the referee. No, they get given Carling Cup.
Get dropped down.
Yeah, or they get
fourth official in the Carling Cup,
or fourth official.
No, mate, you're not working this weekend, and if you don't work, you're not getting paid.
Yeah, or well, I mean, the thing that makes it even worse is you look at it and you look at the first 30 game weeks of the season. There were 18 VAR mistakes within the first 30 weeks of the game of the season for the Premier League. 18. That's more than one every other game statistically.
It's too many.
In a system that is supposed to be practically infallible.
I think people would accept a level of inconsistency with it if it was done for a certain period of time. Like for me, a clear and obvious error means that it needs to be clear and obvious. So if I can't tell you within the first 10 seconds of watching a replay, then it's not clear and obvious.
Ampadu's handball.
You've got 10 seconds. You've got 10 seconds in the VAR studio. Is that an error? Get the ref to have a look at it. All right. Already I've chalked off maybe 3 minutes at this time by spending 5 minutes looking at it and then telling the referee to go check the screen. I've had a quick look at it. Or you do another one. VAR said to the referee, we think you made an error there. Can you check the screen? They're not allowed to make the decision. They're just allowed to tell the referee to go to the screen. And then he walks over and goes, yeah, no, I didn't make a mistake, because they never go against what VAR tell them. So remove that decision-making power, or give them all the decision-making power. There's a free kick there. Grab, free kick. There's a penalty. Right, let them ref it and virtually do that, and the referee just did blow a whistle. But save some of the time by taking some of the area out of this that's not clear and obvious. I mean, if it's a clear and obvious error, it shouldn't take you 6 minutes to decide whether his ankle clipped a guy or his momentum. And again, every tackle looks like a penalty at 0.25 speed. Sometimes you just ran into the player. Sometimes your legs just crossed over. It's an accidental contact, or it's, God forbid, the inevitable thing that will happen in a contact sport, because the last time I checked, it was supposed to still be a contact sport. We're not quite. Basketball is non-contact, and at times I think it's more physical than football.
It is. And again, you look at, from the inconsistency side of things, we mentioned it. And I know I'll keep mentioning it, but the O'Neill thing with the hands round Stroik's throat, but then you look at the week after or the week previous, and it's Crystal Palace against Manchester United, and Leauges puts his literal 2 fingers on Cunha's shoulder, goes down, penalty's given. I think the thing that really, really upsets everybody is that it's just that overall what appears to be level of inconsistency. I think people could probably accept the amount of time to a certain degree to make sure that the right decision's being made. What it appears this season in particular, and I'll get your views on this, is that the referees are absolutely petrified of making a decision because they don't want to be overruled by VAR, but also as well, and we've all seen it, and I think it's the same for every team. It's that level of inconsistency of what is and what isn't. Because I'm still not 100% certain what a handball is this season.
Yeah.
Depending on how you look at it. So
I thought a handball was anything below the shirt line.
So did I.
Here down was a handball or arm ball. Yeah, that's what I thought it was. And I thought it had to be a deliberate action. So that's fine. So that means the one against Manchester City that went against Leeds isn't a penalty. I hate to see that given as a penalty. But the following week in Europe, that was given as a penalty. Exact same incident was given as a penalty. Yeah. Player wasn't looking at it. He was pushed. His arm was up in the air, hit his arm, penalty. And that's the problem. It's either we've gone away. Again, we've created all this huge grey area between what is and what isn't. You know, it used to be accidental handball is if there's no motion of your arm towards the ball. Therefore, it can't be given. Now it's, oh, well, the hand's in an unnatural position. Brendan Aronson against Newcastle. Is it in an unnatural position? Yeah, it's sticking out and dangling. But you run and jump. Where do your arms go? Straight out. Wingspan. Exactly. They flop out straight away. That's a natural position for that exact position in the air. That's completely normal. Penalty. No penalty. Or penalty against us. And then if we have one where it bounces off a guy and hits him in the arm, no penalty. But his arm's out here. But it hit his body first. Yeah, but it still hit his arm. If it hadn't hit his arm, it runs through to a player. You know, then there's when we get the decisions our way, Jaden Bogle's handball. And then the rule was, well, and this is where we got more grey area. If a goal is scored and the hands touch the ball at any point during the move, the goal has to be ruled out. And then you find out, well, actually, no, that rule changed, but nobody was really aware that the rule changed. And it has to go in directly after or immediately following the handball, has to go in the back of the net. And okay. Will he not go against Sunderland?
Yeah.
Not given as a penalty, but it touched the goalkeeper and then a different player put it in.
Yeah.
So what is it? And people who are watching this will disagree in the comments, and the people will have very different opinions on this. And that's the problem. That's the problem. Nobody knows anymore. And the referees again have created. And I agree with you on the referees are terrified to make a decision. You look at the FA Cup before the last round. So our game against Birmingham, we saw a referee how many times let what were blatant free kicks just go without any whistle. And the more the game went on, I know when I was doing the watch along, I was saying to people, is he waiting for VAR to tell him? Is this a reflex now that's built into him of going, well, I'm not sure about that, but they'll tell me in a second. And then forgetting, well, no, the VAR is actually not in this round of the cup. It doesn't kick in until the next round. So I've missed all these fouls now, and I've wound the crowd up, and I've wound the players up. And now this game's going to get a bit meaty because I'm not giving free kicks now. And then you book somebody for a soft free kick when you remembers again. You're like, well, where's the consistency in this? You just let those two tackles go, and now this is a yellow card. Gabby Goodmanson in the Premier League as well, right? So yeah, Brennan Johnson gets away with probably two more cynical tackles and stays on the pitch. Gabby Goodmanson is involved in pulling a shirt while his shirt is getting pulled, gets booked for it, and then while running towards the ball, making minimal to no contact with a player, gets a second yellow and sent off because the referee forgot. So that's where it comes into. I think the referees have got to a stage where a behavior or a learned behavior has kicked in here of, if I miss it, it's okay. The safety net will catch me until the safety net's not there, and then you miss it completely.
Yeah, I mean,
it worse.
It was the same as we were. Again, I use Brentford as an example of that. I watched Thiago foul the ever living crap out of our three centre backs and not get booked for it. And then there was a
stroke. The stroke tackle is a clear yellow card. He's bridged. You're not allowed to do that.
No, but there was, we get two plays booked just before half time, and they're for innocuous challenges. And I think what people want to see, and again, it comes down to the consistency. That's just what you're a professional referee who's paid a decent amount of money to referee Premier League games. You should almost be beyond reproach for the work that you do, because you're an expert in the laws of the game. You're an expert in how the game flows. You're an expert in what happens between players and stuff and things like that. You should be able to deal with that situations. And sadly, it just feels like both the standard of the Premier League this season and the standard of refereeing this season has just dropped down a level a little bit, which is, I actually found myself saying, I miss being in the Championship. Not that I want to be a league lower.
So many people have said that in my comments, videos are going, I'm done with the Premier League. I'll see us in the Championship. Can't watch this anymore. Like, I haven't not enjoyed the Premier League this year. Like, it's not been the worst for me.
No.
But I'm like I've coached, so I kind of look at certain games and I don't mind differing styles of football. I don't mind someone being more direct and playing to their strengths. I don't mind that because it makes it a bit more interesting to digest games and go, well, there's a bit of a chess match going on here. These are trying to play out from the back tippy tappy, and these guys are going down their throat. Who's going to win here? Which, who gets the better out of their players in these systems and these planes. But the other issue on the referee stuff, Paul, is, and this was this was always a danger. And again, I remember certain matches. I remember playing a game in Bray once, and I was in the changing room getting kitted out, and I was tying my laces, and the referee came in, and the ref walked past me and went, "How are you, Ger?" And kept walking. And I just went, "Oh no!" My manager went, "He knows you." I went, "Yeah." Not for a good reason. The referee would never know your name unless he was familiar with you, and the only way he was familiar with you was if he spoke to you an awful lot on a football pitch, which means you're in trouble before the game even kicks off. Roy Keane used to always joke about it. Do you want to book me before the game starts? Get out of the way. Because I'm going to get booked by you today. And it goes the other way in the Premier League. As fans, we shouldn't know the referees' names.
No.
I can rattle off 3 or 4 referees, no problem. We've had issues with them so much. Thomas Bramwell pops into your head straight away. Jared Gillett pops into your head straight away.
Peter Banks.
Yeah, Peter Banks. Yeah. You shouldn't know them. The best referees are invisible. The best referees are invisible. I mean, if you can go through a game and not comment on the referee, chances are he's had a great game.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly the point that I was just about to make. You should be able to get to the end of a game and just go, what a great game that was. You shouldn't have to talk about the referee in any way, shape, or form at all. It should be better than what we've got at the moment, because it's so annoying. It's so annoying, and particularly for us, because we're in such a high pressure environment because of our position in the league, etc., so on and so forth. It feels like magnified because of where we are. But I mean, it's a tough one. It's going to be interesting to see if there are any changes next season, or if anything does change, or if anything is brought in to try and once again help the referees for where we are, just to, or make it more complicated, really, to be honest.
It won't be the issue. It won't be the issue, because you'll get Wenger's offside rule, which I'm not completely against, by the way, because the argument is daylight.
Yeah.
And the rule used to always be, when I was playing, there has to be clear daylight between the attacker and the defender to be offside. So the favour was always given to the attacker. So that was what I grew up with. There must be daylight between the player before to be offside. So I could run offside and my leg could be level with the player behind me. I'm onside because it's not daylight, right? Wenger wants to bring that back in. That's what his rule is. And people are saying, well, it's gonna cause teams to sit on the 18-yard line. It's gonna cause more low blocks. And I don't necessarily believe that, because I think it might encourage teams to break quicker.
Yeah.
Because there's less chance of being caught offside. But the rationale behind it is wrong. Immediately it's wrong, because what they're claiming here is no longer will an offside decision be sorted out by a body part, like a toe or a heel. It's like, no, it will.
Always.
Of course it will.
Always.
But instead of my nose, it's going to be my heel.
Yeah.
Because now it's back here, not here. So if I run beyond them, it's like, oh, is he offside? Looks like he's offside. Well, no, actually, there's going to be more offsides checked now, because there's going to be more grey area between the players. It's not a toe offside, so that's pretty tight. Is he offside? It's now going to be, well, he looks offside. Is he offside? Oh no, actually his heel's keeping him onside. So it's his heel that's going to keep him on, rather than your toe putting you offside. So it's not going to change it that much. It'll change behavior a little bit on the pitch, but it won't change necessarily the problem, which is it's taking too long to sort this out, and it's sucking the fun out of the game because we're judging offsides by a toenail. Well, now we're judging it by your heel or your elbow, right? So that's where it's going to shift, or your shoulder. That's where it's going to shift it. Yeah. And if they do bring in any rules, like, removing the ability for players to go over to a sideline, whatever it is, that won't be the problem. The problem will be, is this going to be enforced? Because again, goalkeeper having the ball in his hand and taking 25 seconds to kick it out, there was a rule there for that. 6 seconds indirect free kick in the box. Wasn't being enforced by the referees. And there should be no such thing as a ghost rule. Well, it exists, but it's not put into practice. But then it doesn't exist. It is or it isn't. You can't be half pregnant here. It either is or it isn't. Pick one, right? They bring in another rule, 8 seconds. Have you seen any corners given this year since the second week of the season for a goalkeeper hanging onto the ball, and the referees are supposed to do this when he's got 5 seconds left? I've seen Ethan Ampadu in referees' faces when goalkeepers have got the
Counting
ball.
and telling them. Yeah.
For Sunderland, I counted 15 seconds. The ball was in a goalkeeper's hand. 15 seconds. And you're like, the referee's staring at him, and the crowd's getting wound up, and the players are shouting at him, and we're going 9, 10,
yeah.
11,
yeah.
12, right? And going, this rule just came in, and you've already started to ignore it. So it doesn't matter what the league decides to do, what the PGMOL decides to do. The issue will be, will the individuals in the black in the middle of the pitch and in Stockley Park, will they enforce these rules? And I'm going to get back in my soapbox about Mikel Arteta. There is a rule that stops him from walking outside his technical area. He is supposed to be booked every single time he does it. He doesn't. He got booked once this year, twice this year. I think he's got booked. And I celebrated that because finally someone had the balls to do that. And also, I heard Henry Winter wrote a really strong piece about, well, referees' hands are tied on these tactical timeouts. Like, what can the referee do? And like, well, against Sunderland, when Keith Andrews called all the players over, his entire technical staff got off the bench, walked out to the sideline with water bottles, put them down, and one of them was on the pitch. You're only allowed one technical staff member in the technical area at any given time. So every single one of them could have been booked and told to sit back down. And the person that stepped on the pitch definitely should have been booked because he's not allowed on the pitch. And also, you're not allowed to step off the pitch if you're a player. They should have been booked as well. So there are still rules there that could have been put in, or could have been used, or could have been enforced by the referees and the fourth official. But instead, we saw the fourth official and the linesman do this to Daniel Farke. What do you want me to do? I want you to do your job.
Yeah.
I want you to do your job. I want you to book him because that's what the rule says.
Yeah, it's the thing that makes it worse as well, particularly with the Brentford game, was 3 of our players went over to the referee, and it's the first time we've asked our players to start to play the game a little bit more and get in the referee's faces a little bit more. But 3 of our players go over to the referee to say, look at what's going on the touchline. There is nothing wrong with the player. What are you going to do about what's going on there? The ref goes,
what am I supposed to do?
Yeah, and then ushers them away, which just winds everybody up way more than what it needs to.
What do you think Matthias Klick would have done in that situation?
Oh, he would have gone over and stood in amongst everybody. He would have made an absolute nuisance of himself on purpose just to wind everybody up, because that's what he does.
And that's all he has to do. Yeah. That's all they have to do. They don't have to cause arguments. They don't have to get into a pushing match. They don't have to get themselves booked. But they're allowed to stand on the pitch.
Yeah.
So if the Leeds squad just walk into the middle of that huddle, what are you going to do about it? And if nothing else, it disrupts the huddle, which means, well, how long is the goalkeeper going to stay down for you to get this advantage? Because if we stay here for the entire time he's down, he has to get up at some point, or the referee's going to make him make a sub. So at least play that part of the game. And this is the part of me thinks that waving your hands from the sideline is playing the victim here a little bit. Do something about it. Because there is something you can do about it. You can make this, if they're going to bend the rules, so can you. Get in the middle of that huddle. Same way when someone's handed a note onto the pitch, somebody else will walk over and take the note off them. We've seen loads of clips of it. Eat it. Whatever. There's again, if you're going to try and take an advantage by bending a rule, don't be surprised if somebody bends one back and tries to take that power away from you. And I would love to see some team between now and the end of the season, the next time that happens, just all of them, if they walk over the sideline, right, lads, in there.
Yeah, go and get in there.
Every one of you. Get in there.
Go and get in and find out what they're saying. No, I completely agree with that. I think it's very much an interesting topic, and I don't think there's any one solution to the problem that we quite clearly have this season. The standard of the Premier League, there's things that can be brought in to make that a little bit better than what it is, but you also have to understand that teams are trying to maintain their Premier League status, because for each position you are higher, it's an extra £3 million on top of what if you're a team that doesn't bring in a lot of revenue, particularly with the new model that's coming in. That type of revenue being brought in is going to be very, very good. The refereeing thing, I think it's a longer term fix that we're looking at. I don't think this is, unfortunately, it's something that is going to happen overnight, which is infuriating, which means we're going to be doing more of this talking about referees and complaining and whinging. And like I said, I didn't want it to seem like this is a woe is Leeds. I think the Premier League as a spectacle as a whole has been very, very difficult this season, just with things that have gone on and things that have happened, and just the standard being a lot lower. It's probably going to be a record low points total that wins the Premier League this season as well, which is something else that is you know, I'm sure will be talked about for years to come as well. But I think that's a fair position to end on. So I feel a bit better now. Actually, I was getting stressed out again. So that little chat has just made me feel a little bit easier. I also want to say thank you to the person that commented on one of my pictures that I put up on X with regards to the work starting at Ellen Road with the holes that were being put in, which is the foundation. A guy that's actually doing the work there, working for one of the firms that's building it, was saying, yep, that's the new footings, but it's also my firm's doing the portal cabins or whatever it is that's going to be put up, the temporary marquee. But somebody underneath the picture put, that's the digging of all of the graves for all of the keepers that have perished this season inside Ellen Road, which was just an absolutely phenomenal comment to make. And I think that's
may they all rest in peace.
Yeah, may they all rest in peace, which I think is a nice position to end it on. And also as well, while we're on the subject of bigging up things, so I don't need to, but Ger, where can everybody find you? Where are the best places to find you on the Tinterweb?
Cheers, mate. Yeah, the Leeds View on YouTube and again on all the audio platforms, as well as the Leeds View on Instagram. We're trying to get that over 1,000 followers so we can actually do some live content on Instagram for little walk around chit chats as well. So we're about 800 so there as well. Or you can get us on bigup.com for watch alongs as well.
Fantastic. Mine all the same as what they were before. So the QR code that is in the corner that's been in there for the entirety. You've got as Ger said, you can see down there, Instagram and X, PDB1980. There is my, excuse me, God, I had a load of saliva stuck in my throat then. That made me feel rather weird. There is my TikTok. I just say really random stuff. That's what we do.
I choke on my breath at least once a day.
I'm glad you said breath there, mate. So on my TikTok, it is G1BBON. So it's Gibbon, basically. Long story, it's my old gamer tag. But that's where my short form content will be on there as well if you want to go and follow that. But that's going to do it for this one. Big thanks to Ger. Really appreciate you getting involved and stepping onto my channel. And yeah, take care of each other. Most importantly, please, as I always like to say, make sure that you take care of yourself. That's the most important thing. We'll see you on the next one, guys. Thank you very much. Cheers.